Hi, everybody. I would like to start by thanking you for attending our kind of first attempt at a webinar here at Legacy Junction. We kind of just wanted to get some information out to you guys, as this year is a little bit different with not being able to host any grower meetings and kind of more limiting some face-to-face reactions in some cases. So we just wanted to pop on and get some information out regarding flea beetles and some canola variety trials that we've seen in our area. So Jacqueline, Tracy, and I, Kim, will be presenting today, and we're going to start with flea beetles, their life cycle, some treatment options, then we'll move into some local trial data from our supplier companies. So this is BASF, Bayer, Corteva, and Bright Young. Some location trial data that we had from some demo bags, and then we'll do a short little wrap up and any questions. Getting into it, there are two main species of flea beetles that we're concerned with in this area. There is actually three types of flea beetles. This hop flea beetle is out there as well, just not something we typically see. Flea beetles, their growing cycle is through the middle of our crop season, so this is when we may be seeing them twice a year. Once as they are emerging in the spring as hungry adults. They lay eggs in June and the adults die off. Larvae hatch in that early July period and feed on roots. They pupate mid-July, and then adults are seen again in August when they are feeding to overwinter. If you are on any kind of form of social media this fall, you would have seen probably some plants from Manitoba that were full-size canola plants being taken down by flea beetles. This would be this adult cycle where they're starting to overwinter. We did also see some feeding on maybe some volunteers in some fields here this fall, and maybe if you had some canola growing around your bins, you would have seen a little bit of feeding there as well. So striped flea beetles, they have stripes. They can emerge 1 to 4 weeks earlier than the crucifer flea beetles, and they can typically emerge in some cooler conditions. So this is also when our canola seedlings are not as actively growing, and they're less likely to grow past that damage that flea beetles can inflict. Striped flea beetles also lay more eggs, and this can lead to them possibly having 2 generations per year mixed with that earlier emergence that we're seeing. They are less susceptible to current neonic seed treatment options, and Tracy's just going to speak to a new product on the market that we have to combat this, which is quite exciting. Because of the neonics, we're also seeing a population shift from the crucifers to the striped flea beetles across the prairies. They like to stem feed more. This makes them a little bit more damaging, whereas with crucifers, we may be seeing like a little bit more feeding on the leaves. With the stripes, they're getting down into that stem, and even though we might only see 10 to 15% feeding on the cotyledons, they're doing a lot more damage by eating through those stems.
For 2021, we have a new seed treatment coming out that's specifically for flea beetles. It's called Buteo Start, and it's coming from the Bayer camp. The Buteo name comes from the group that it comes from. It's a group 4D insecticide, a butanoid subgroup. This is different from neonics, but it acts in the same way. So this is excited because the striped flea beetles are not really affected by the neonic type of chemicals. So this new product coming to the market will be really quite targeted towards the striped flea beetles, which is our problem that we're seeing. So this is similar to the Helix product that we've seen in the past, and the Helix products was very strong against the crucifer flea beetle. So this is what we're expecting from the Buteo Start with the striped flea beetle. It's going to be very effective. This will disrupt the insect's nervous system, keep it from feeding, and then the plant will be able to get ahead, and then we'll finish out the cycle of the flea beetle, and the plant will be able to surpass that before it sees a lot of damage. So this is going to be an add-on product available on DeKalb Seed for 2021. So this will be something you will purchase on top of your standard treatment of Prosper Evergol. So you will ask for Buteo Start similar as you would have asked for Jumpstart or Lumiderm in the past. So it's available on its own with Prosper Evergol, or you can add the Fortenza to it if you've got a cutworm situation. So the Buteo Start will also be available on quite a few Bright Young products in this coming year, which mostly on the 6204 will be the one they're targeting, but there might be some opportunity with some other ones. Buteo start, you can see in this picture here on the left, it was on this DeKalb variety. You can see that the Buteo field is quite a bit further ahead. It's starting to bloom, where the one on the right with Fortenza Advanced is not. So even though that this was what I would consider low feeding on the flea beetles, we did see enough damage that it did set it back a little bit. This is a picture down from Mossley, Alberta, so that's south of Strathmore. We didn't see a lot of local feeding on flea beetles this year because of the temperature and the moisture that we had. So down south, they did see quite a bit more flea beetles, and we saw some really good results with Buteo start. Insecticide seed treatment options this year, it's getting to be quite a full shelf. So you've got Lumiderm, Fortenza, Fortenza Advanced, and Buteo start. So Lumiderm is a product that has come from the Dow, DuPont, Corteva camp. It's a group 28. It's mostly a cutworm product. It initially came out as a product just for cutworms, but it also does, in conjunction with the Prosper Evergol or with the Helix Vibrant, it does give you a little bit more control on your flea beetles. It's not seeing a lot of control specifically on its own. It's enhancing what you already have. And what we're seeing with the Lumiderm product is we're seeing some initial vigor pop-up effect of the Lumiderm products, and it helps them get ahead of the flea beetle. So you just have a little more biomass there, so you can get ahead of the flea beetle eating versus some of the other products on the market. Looking at Fortenza, Fortenza is the same group as Lumiderm. It's a group 28. It's just applied at a lower rate. That is just strictly for cutworms. That's available on DeKalb and Brett Young. So if you're looking for flea beetle protection, the Fortenza is not going to give it to you because it's just strictly for the cutworms at the level that they're putting it on. Fortenza Advanced is available on the Brett Young products this year. It is the same rate of Fortenza, plus it has another group in it that was formerly marketed as Visivio. So Visivio does give you a little bit more flea beetle protection. However, with the populations that we've been seeing in 2019, we did notice that when those populations are really high, unfortunately, those flea beetles were able to eat right through some of that Visivio. It did give you some control, but unfortunately, we did have to do some spraying even on the stuff that was treated with Fortenza Advanced. Buteo is going to be just for flea beetles only. So if you have a combination situation where you're worried about cutworms and flea beetles, Buteo will not be enough on its own, but it's going to be available on DeKalb and Brett Young. The seed lineup from us here at Legacy is starting to get pretty full. So as you can see on your screen, there's a lot of options out there. There's a lot of different products on the market. There's a lot of different seed herbicide options from multiple companies. So the Liberty Link trait patent has expired. So we're starting to see Liberty Link products coming from different suppliers. So we're starting to see these products come from non-traditional Liberty Link. We've always thought of Invigor as being the only ones with Liberty trait. That's not the case anymore. So we're starting to see these varieties pop up from different suppliers. So the first thing I'd like to say when you're thinking about what seed you'd like to grow this year is consider the traits you want first. If you're looking for a straight cut option, you need to look at which varieties will provide you that opportunity to do a straight cut. If you're looking for a straight swath product, look at the ones which are have a propensity to be swathed, right? The straight cut option often does come at a premium. So if it's not something that you're interested in, then you can look at that. Look at your clubroot situation. We're seeing some clubroot breakdown of the first generation clubroot resistance we have out there. The 241s, the 7542s, we're starting to see some breakdown. So if you're looking for a second generation clubroot product, that really shortens your seed lineup down to 4 varieties. So you've got the DeKalb 98, the Brett Young 6076, the Invigor L234, and the Brevant B3010M. Those provide a second or third generation clubroot protection. However, sometimes when you have those plants that are focusing on protection or their disease packages, there can be sometimes a little bit of a yield lag, but we're going to talk a little bit more about that when we get to trials. And last, what your herbicide needs are. So if you're looking for a Roundup product, if you're looking for a Liberty Link product, there's 2 different types of Roundup products on the market right now. There's the standard Genuity, as well as there is the TrueFlex, where you can add or you can spray 2x the rate of glyphosate. So if you've got an issue with a seed, or pardon me, with a weed seed, you can certainly get ahead of it that way. All right, so I'm going to get into some of the trial results here. One thing I do want to note in the DECAL trials, they did have actually 3 second-gen clubroot products in them, the 98CR, the 45CM39, and the B3010M. One thing about the straight cut products when we're talking about the DECAL camp is that the straight cut products are a natural selection process. So when they are getting harvested in trials and straight cut, they are naturally selected. So it's not actually a genetic trait that's bred into the canola, it's natural selection. So we did have some very, very local trial data. If you want something that's a little bit more local to your area, please reach out to us. I'm sure that we can dig something up for you and send it off something a little bit more like this. But I will get into the trial results that we have here. We did have Camrose being our first one. In that trial, we did see that the DKTF 98CR did win that trial. It did have a very high percentage of a win rate. That one, as well as the L345 PC, seem to be two that are coming to the top, as well as the B3010M and the 3011 as well. In this particular trial, the 45CM39 came in a very, very close second. I'm not really sure we can even consider that first and second, followed by the DKTF 97CRSC, which is a straight cut and clubroot product, new this year. It wasn't experimental in these trials, followed by the L345 and the B3010M. In Basha, we did have some very similar results. The DKTF 98CR did come out on top again, followed very closely by the L345 PC, then the DKTF 97 CRSC, and the 45CM39. New Norway, a little bit different here. The 45CM39 actually did come out on top, followed by the DKTF 98CR, the 345 PC, and then the DKTF 97 CR. All in all, you can kind of see that these varieties performed very, very similarly. They all have a little bit different traits depending on what you're looking for, and they all have a very good fit. In terms of the Brett Young products, we do find that these products typically do better as you go further east of Camrose. They are doing a bit better as we get closer to Camrose. We're seeing a lot more success. That could be attuned to a little bit better disease packages that the Brett Young camp has bred into their canola seed in terms of the 6076, the 4187, I believe the 6204. They have really good clubroot packages. They have good sclerotinia packages, and they also have some very good blackleg packages in them as well. The 6076 being their triple stacked product, having the best disease package, as well as their 4187. So in this trial, we did find that 6076, which is their only second generation clubroot product, and that triple stack that I talked about, did win the trial with a 56.61 bushels per acre yield, followed very closely by the 4187 and the 6090. 4187 is a variety that was formerly from the Syngenta camp. They did sell it off to Brett Young. It is definitely marketed as a very strong disease package canola variety, and it has been doing actually significantly better in the past years. I don't know if that's just disease pressure or what, but then we did have the 6204 True Flex variety there as well. All very good varieties. They all, once again, did really well and very suitable for places a little bit east of Camrose, and as we get closer to Camrose, they're starting to do really well because of the disease packages that they have available. And then once we get into the BASF InVigor varieties, I do want to note first and foremost that the pod shatter trait in these varieties is a genetically bred in trait. It's more robust physiologically and is bred directly into the seed, whereas the other ones are more of a natural selection process like I mentioned before. So getting into these trials here, we did find that the L345 PC, much like in this trial, we did actually go and visit this trial. It was very immaculate. It looked fantastic. It was probably one of the best looking trials that we went to. The 345 PC did come out on top. It's not really a surprise. It has been winning a lot of trials. And following that one, we did have the L255 PC, the L234 PC, the L340 PC, the 45CM39, the B3010M, and the LR344PC. So it is important to note that the L234PC is the only variety in the BASF InVigor camp that has second-gen clubroot on it. The two that it was against, the Brevant B3010M and the 45CM39, do as well, but it's just important to note that if you're looking for second-gen clubroot, the 234, if you're looking for BASF, is the only one that has it. In terms of the newer varieties, especially the L340PC, it is one that is marketed kind of as a direct competitor against L345PC. If you're maybe have a higher fertility package and you're noticing that the L345s, the 234s in the world are falling over, the L340PC is marketed as one that will stand up against the test of time and all of the conditions that we have in the growing season. So that is our BASF trial there.
Moving on to Brevant here, they had quite a few trials out right around the Camrose area. Just going to speak to the varieties a little bit first, just because they are a little bit newer. So the B3010M is when they're marketing a little bit harder for our area. It is somewhere between a second and third generation clubroot. It also has a Harvest Max trait designated by the M there. The B3011 is a first gen clubroot. Going forward, anything out of Corteva or Brevant camp is going to have a clubroot trait in it, so they're not putting a special designation there for that. Just know that it's in there. So Camrose West, this trial, I don't think you can really say there was a runaway winner on. The B3011 did do a little bit better than the rest, and this is typically what we saw around the Camrose area, not only in the Brevant trials, but also in a couple of the demo trials we had out. Moving on to Stettler, we went and took a look at this trial in mid-August, and the B3010 and 11 were definitely standing a little bit better than the InVigor varieties in there. However, it's important to note that the InVigors did have an extremely high plant stand population, and this could have contributed to a little bit of yield loss as they were over that kind of ideal 5 to 7 plants per square foot, where you're not getting that ideal branching, and maybe they're competing too much for fertility resources as well. So in that one, the Brevant did do better, but perhaps some seeding rate adjustments. We weren't given the seeding rate on these. In Castor, the 3010M and L233P yielded right around the same. Important to note in this trial, that B3011, as I alluded to before, it does not have a Harvest Max trait, and this trial was straight cut. So they did see some shelling occur as the 3011 was ready to harvest before the other two varieties were. The 3011 is marketed more as a swath variety and would be similar to L241 that we have seen a lot of in this area. So kind of expect that maturity-wise and harvestability-wise if you are thinking of growing 3011. Out in Lougheed area, B3010M and L252, right around the same kind of yield point. I think in this trial, important to mention, as we've talked about a little bit earlier, the disease packages, they are trying their best not to compromise yield when adding them. B3010 having such a strong clubroot package as well as a Harvest Max trait, and 252 not showcasing either of these. It's just kind of nice to see that we're not compromising that yield there. Camrose East area, 234 PC and B3010M, quite similar products as far as disease package goes, and then that harvestability. As Jacqueline said before, the InVigors from BASF are the only ones with the pod shatter trait bred into them. The rest are selected for. Harvestability-wise, we've heard they're quite similar to go through, and the B3010M does seem to stand up and straight cut quite well. The 3011 did win this trial, and that's kind of what we've typically seen around Camrose, is it does do very well. So we had a couple demo bags here, and we're just going to run through kind of some results we saw from them. We had a plot out by Balf with L241, B3011, and B3010M. B3011 won this plot. This plot was swathed at appropriate timing, so just note that it was swathed with the 3011 there. The 241 came in at 64.1 bushels an acre, and the B3010M came in at 57.8 bushels an acre. The grower said that there might have been a little bit more washout on some of the B3010M, so this is kind of some rough numbers. Important to note here, we did have to adjust the seeding rate slightly for the 3011 just to get a full plot down of it to be an equal size there. And as you can see in the average plant stand counts, we did see that 3011 did have less plants, but that did not affect the yield.
And then for the final grower plot that we did have, one thing I did want to mention, it's very interesting. Lots of these varieties, like the 241C, you don't really see it in trials anymore. So it's nice that we can kind of throw together our own little trial. And we did throw together B3011, 241C, and B3010M, much like that other grower trial that we had. There was a little bit of a slant. I would say the B3011 actually had the biggest disadvantage in terms of washout and rainfall, followed by the 241C, and the B3010M was actually on the highest ground there. So we did see that the B3011 kind of dominated the plot there. Not surprising. It looked good all year round. It had that really vigorous pop-up effect, as did the B3010M. The 241C was a little bit less aggressive, I would say, coming out of the ground and kind of all year round. We did see a little bit actually more weed growth in the 241C, and it was all treated exactly the same. So the 241C did come in third at 56.96 bushels to the acre. It is important to note that that was corrected for 3% yield loss for sprayer track trampling, as it did have a sprayer track through it. So we did actually correct that, and that's how we came to that 56.96 bushels per acre. And the B3010M also performed very well at 61.26 bushels to the acre. So I see that we don't have any questions here. You guys have been listening along all along. If you do have any questions or anything further that maybe you don't want addressed on the webinar, you can call, text, or email any of us at any time, and we are more than happy to field those questions and find you some answers. So as a quick summary, I do just want to note that flea beetles are still a problem, and they are becoming more of a problem the earlier we seed. Buteo Start is a new and really good option for flea beetles. However, it will not be available on all varieties. Where Buteo Start is not available, we do have Lumiderm, a cutworm product with some minor flea beetle protection, but it should not be relied on as a flea beetle product. Both treatments have been proven to show a pop-up and vigor effect, which will help them get ahead and have a very strong start. Ideally, no canola should ever be seeded and forgotten about, regardless of how good the treatment is. In terms of variety selection, there are many factors that affect performance of certain varieties, and that being seeding implements, soil quality, rainfall, fertility program, et cetera, et cetera. There are lots of canola seed varieties to choose from, and more coming to market every year. Whether it's a first gen or a second gen clubroot, straight cut product, pod shatter varieties, there is a variety or two for everyone, and we can work with you and help you decide which one is best for you and your farm. At the end of the day, you do know your farm and your operation the best, and it is very important to find and grow something that works for you. Last but not least, if you are interested in doing some canola seed trials with us, like we had mentioned there that we did, and you'd like to see a few varieties side by side on your farm and your specific way that you do things, please do not hesitate to contact one of us. With all of that being said, we would like to extend a very big thank you for joining us today. We are living in a very strange world, and 2020 has been nothing short of easy, but it is very nice to be able to connect in different ways, such as webinars like this one. We hope you have a wonderful day, and we hope to see you all very, very soon. Thank you for coming.